Holy smokes, everyone. It is time for the great debate, gold versus Bitcoin, especially with all the uncertainty that's happening in the markets right now. Today, I'm here with Jason. We're going to talk over what's going to outperform gold. I'll talk over reasons myself why I think gold is going to do better. Jason is going to be defending the Bitcoin bulls, and then we'll have a discussion on what we think is the best thing to do in 2022. So, Jason, do you want to quickly introduce yourself to all my viewers that don't know you?
Sweet. Yeah, happy to be here. I've been trolling Michael on the YouTube comments for some time. I've been online for several years, investing 15 years property, then into trading, and of course, crypto over the last 5 years. And that's what my channel is on YouTube. Just over 250,000 over there. Michael's on the rise here, and it's good to talk with another Aussie in the finance space. There's very few of us, so yeah, I'm just enjoying being on the YouTube with another Aussie that we can debate. Of course, Bitcoin's going to win, but let's see what gold's got.
No, mate, it's going to zero, don't you know? It's going to zero, like Peter Schiff's saying.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
That Bitcoin has to be zero.
Yeah, that's right. It can't be anything in between. So I guess quickly, for those that don't know, we can just give a quick general guide on what makes gold go up and what makes Bitcoin go up. So I guess I could quickly say some reasons why I
Yeah.
think gold goes up, and then you can talk about Bitcoin. So I think generally, like what we saw, what happened in March 2020, when central banks start printing a lot of money, we know that's going to cause inflation. Unlike what the central banks say, they try to say, you know what, we can increase the money supply by 40%. It won't do anything to inflation, but of course that didn't age well. So people want to store their wealth. They want to hedge against its inflation. And also when interest rates are down at zero and people can't get a yield, even though gold doesn't give any yield, preserves people's wealth and it does appreciate. And we saw also with uncertainty when the global economy entered a recession, gold went on a huge rally. And that's generally what makes gold go up when there's a lot of inflation and a lot of uncertainty and it's a flight to safety. So that's just some reasons why I think gold goes up in general. So what do you think in general makes Bitcoin go up?
Yeah. I think Bitcoin's pretty similar. I just want to start saying, I'm pretty sure people know we're just two random talking heads on the internet. But of course, we have pretty big interest in the finance, and this is what we do with our own portfolios, not financial advice, yada yada. But that's what I see with Bitcoin as well. When I talk to people, that's why they're investing in it. But most people want to invest and see. They want to see what they're buying go up in value, and they're pricing in future growth. So why does the price go up? Why is Bitcoin going up? Because I think people see Bitcoin as another store of value in the future. And because it's worldwide and it's very easy to get in and out of from anyone around the globe, unlike gold, you can see the prices boom and bust a lot easier and in bigger ranges than say gold or older traditional assets. Yeah.
So I guess then we could get into the debate then. What's going to happen in 2022? And, there's people like Elon Musk, he's come out saying that, we're going to be entering in a recession in 2022. We've seen in the US with the latest jobs report data, the jobs market look like it's starting to weaken. I think even Kathy Wood said we're going to be entering into a deflationary crash or a recession as
She's been going
well.
on about that for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
She's been
So,
liking her deflation and her million
yeah,
dollar Bitcoin targets up from
yeah.
500,000.
Well, you'd think if there was deflation, then that wouldn't really be that bullish for Bitcoin. Yeah. So I don't know what
I
she's
mean,
doing there.
that would exactly, but it would also be say for gold. But I think people are pricing in that this stuff is finite, it's limited, and they want to put their money somewhere because people have money at the moment. I know for many people they say, well, what are you talking about? But we saw in 2020 the savings were huge across the board in Western developed countries. We'll stick with that. But people had a ton of money. That's why we're seeing them. They need to put it somewhere, and all of these assets are just skyrocketing in price. Your collectibles, real estate, stocks, of course, crypto as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so some reasons why I think gold is going to outperform right now, because I think we're going from a risk off environment, risk on environment. We're leaving that environment and we're going to more flight to safety, or investors are a bit more hesitant with the Federal Reserve now going into a rate hike cycle. And also they're going to be reducing that quantitative tightening. Now,
Hmm.
obviously, gold and silver is going to drop along with that. But if we do enter in recession in 2022, then like what I think personally, like what happened in March 2020, and that's when we're going to see the rally. And if we're comparing with Bitcoin here, I think Bitcoin is going to fall more. And some things that's kind of like holding me back from investing heavily in Bitcoin is we had the narrative that it was going to be a currency when I started investing in Bitcoin in 2016 and 2017. When that didn't really work out because it was just so slow and inefficient. Maybe eventually it will with the layer two solutions and people trying to work on making it faster and cheaper. Also, what we saw is there was a narrative that okay, it's a store of value, but the price has dropped 50%, in a matter of months. So
But
I
remember,
think
it has gone up hundreds of a percent in several months as well. So when we're
yes,
going to get those big booms, we're going to get the busts. And it's not as old as gold. Like, I'm pretty sure you know this, and many of the viewers know it as well. But it's more like we need to remember that that's what it's going through. It's going through its growth stage at the moment. So, was buying it in 2019, 2020 at 3, 4 grand, 10 grand, and now it's all the way up at 30 or 40 grand, hit a peak of 60. It's still a 20x, whereas gold in that same period's done nothing. And gold in the last 10 years, nothing. It's basically a zero net. And if we account for inflation as well, which, we've got a couple of charts we could probably post
yeah. So what are you
over the
talking about
last
there? Gold has
20
been going
years.
up over the past 20 years. So how can you say it's not gone up? So have you got some other charts here?
Yeah, let's
I
have a
thought
look
I'm
at.
looking at dollar terms and my gold's going up. And also just quickly, with the store of value thing, yes, it has gone up, but also things like Pokemon cards have gone up. Like you said, collectibles. Does that mean they're a store of
They
value?
have.
I think you could say anything with limited supply is a store of value compared to dollars. But so again, going back to the debate there, I think in the short term, if you do want a store of value, gold outbeats it. But all speculative assets that are new over the long term, they're probably going to outperform gold because gold has a much more mature market cap of around 12 trillion. So it's a lot
Mhm.
harder to move the price than Bitcoin.
True, and that's what we're trying to get to with Bitcoin. Investors, we're trying to price in that that's possibly where Bitcoin goes, is to take a share of the gold market. But this is what I was looking at here. We just got inflation adjusted, log scale on so that we can actually see what's going on. If we take that off, it's going to be a bit weird. But gold in 1980, we'll just scroll it down there. You can see 1980, it was for inflation adjusted 2,400. Currently, it's sitting at about 1,800. So over 42 years, gold has been a terrible store of value. So I think 42 years is pretty long, but sure, you could, I'm cherry picking from the 80s, but if you
Mm.
got the bottom in the 2000s, then sure, you're up a significant amount, but still not that much considering other investments in there in, say, tech, which is where we're going with the whole technology of money, Bitcoin.
Well, then doesn't that mean it's due to boom then? It's been suppressed. The banks have been manipulating the price. We all know it. JP Morgan's got caught manipulating the silver markets. They just get a slap on the wrist. And yeah, like I said, you cherry pick from there. But if you brought the dip, you got to be buying the dip down when it was $400. Yeah, that's what nearly a 500% return since 2000. So it's still not too
As of
bad, especially for
20
what you
years.
would consider a safe haven asset.
For a safe haven, yeah. But, like we're debating here Bitcoin or gold. And it's, again, not financial advice. I'll be looking at this, say, for the majority of us, the viewers. We don't have tens of millions of dollars. You might say speak for yourself, okay? But I would look at
No.
investing in gold if you had tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars, so that it is that safe haven asset. Whereas someone newer, we've got things like Bitcoin at the moment. And at the moment, the chart is up, Bitcoin against gold. And so if it is actually going to take that share of gold, then we're going to have a much bigger upside investing in something like Bitcoin than gold. But if you still want to stay in the metals, then we'd have to go and debate silver, because silver's going to have a bigger upside, but of course, bigger downside as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I guess you could kind of say the same thing with crypto like Ethereum. Ethereum, I think, will obviously outperform Bitcoin as well. I think there's a lot more use
Hmm.
case for Ethereum with the network, with DeFi being built on it, with gaming, with what these crazy kids are doing these days with NFTs.
You sound
And
like a boomer. Am I
yeah,
talking to
yeah,
Peter Schiff?
yeah. I'm definitely a boomer, even though I'm a millennial, but I'm sounding like a boomer. And yeah, now with all this metaverse craziness that's going on, where all these games look terrible. Just I think when I
Oh,
used to play
garbage.
RuneScape back in the day was a better uh, metaverse than
But
some of these games now.
I agree. It's the stuff now is like hopes and dreams. It's a lot of that is built on hopes and dreams. It can boom and bust, but I guess for Bitcoin, because we're seeing a lot of the adoption coming in, that's probably why I would look to Bitcoin longer term than something like gold, because I've got to factor in like the holding costs and the spread to buy and sell, because most people are going to be buying from a dealer if they want the physical thing. And so you got 2 to 10% to buy, then 2 to 10% to sell. And if gold doesn't go up, like it hasn't gone up for 40 years, then I'm down 5 to 20% just to get in and out of it without it doing anything. So it's I don't know, for this recession, gold, Bitcoin. What are you thinking? Are you looking at this as something that you want to be holding in case we get a recession in 2021, or would you want something easier like Bitcoin? Of course, I'm going the Bitcoin side here.
Yeah, well, I guess there is alternatives now. A lot of my viewers, they all say they want to hold the physical, and yeah, you can definitely do that. If you think there is going to be some huge economic collapse, or if you're not happy with what the banks are doing with manipulating the futures markets, or
Mm,
how increased paper supply artificially increases supply because they're not all backed one to one, and that's why I think in the long term, a Bitcoin ETF could actually be bad because then that's going to add more paper supply. But in short term, obviously, it'll spike the price. But yeah, in a bear market, I think what's
mm,
going to happen in the short term, if we do see a big sell off in the stock market and we enter a recession, again, going back to 2022, what we can see from the data, gold and silver will have a short term sell off as well. So I may not be wanting to jump in right now, but we have, another 10% decline in gold and silver. Yeah, I'll definitely be preferring to hold gold and silver than Bitcoin because my personal target for what I'm looking at to start jumping back into Bitcoin again is roughly around that 20 to 25,000 range because nobody can time the bottom like they say, but you can sometimes get a rough gauge of the area where it may land.
What would your upside then be? Do you want to buy gold for an upside and Bitcoin for an upside? Like percentage returns,
Yeah,
or do you
so
just want to hold it for a store of value so that your money doesn't get flattened?
no. So I definitely, obviously, we all want to return. So
Yeah.
yeah, I will be wanting to hold gold if we enter a recession like 2020, then hold it and then wait till things look like things are going to recover. Or if the Federal Reserve turns the money printers on again, they reverse course, they start lowering interest rates again. And then once I see we start going back to that risk on environment, then that's when I would start switching back into Bitcoin. That's kind of like what I did in 2020, late 2020. I did buy some Bitcoin. I didn't get at the bottom, but I did buy it, and then dollar cost average out mid 2021 when I saw things okay were looking a bit crazy when people started trading all these meme stocks, and Dogecoin was going up hundreds of percent a day. Again, I didn't time the top perfectly, but I could get a rough idea of where we were in this short term cycle. I said things are looking very bubblicious to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Just if we're going to be investing in either of these things for the recession, if we get a recession in 2022, then of course we got to first one, I think, understand, are we going to get that? And maybe cash is going to be a better option until we see a bottom and maybe a reversal. What are your thoughts on holding cash instead of this? I know I'm throwing something else into the mix now.
Yeah, no, I actually agree. And that's what I've actually been saying to my viewers. You may want to start building some cash up because what we've seen over the past month, the DXY, the dollar index, was going up. So your cash, unlike what they were saying over the past year, was actually going up in value. I wasn't losing as much value, but then assets were falling. So, like I said, gold and silver was still going to fall. All commodities
Mm.
that are priced in dollars, if the dollar goes up, that's going to hurt them in the short term. So, it's always a good idea to hold some cash as well. So not only you can buy Bitcoin on a dip, but you can buy gold and silver on a dip as well. So yeah, that's just my thoughts and opinions. What I'm going to be looking at, where I'm going to be aiming at. But what do you think is going to happen in the Bitcoin and gold and silver markets in 2022?
2022. So I guess this is the debate who's going to win. I think gold obviously will have less of a decline. So it's going to depend on my portfolio and how I want to structure it. I'll be looking at gold if I wanted to have a limited downside risk. But knowing that, I would have a limited upside risk compared to Bitcoin in the long run. So personally, like my stance or my portfolio is much higher risk, which is why I'm more in crypto than metals, because I see the upside potential and I just have to stomach the 50 to 70, 80% losses in some of the big stuff. But like I just said, we get the huge upside. So this year, I think gold will outperform Bitcoin. meaning that it will drop less than Bitcoin. But I'll still get into Bitcoin. I've got a couple of targets and things of where I would look to continue to enter positions. So I'll share just my chart quickly. And this is something that I'm building up in my self-managed super fund. So for the Aussies, SMSF, for the Americans, your IRAs or Roth IRAs, those sort of things. And for Bitcoin, I'm just looking for a reversal because we've been talking about risk on, risk off. We need to be buying the fear to get the low prices. And usually the fear is out there at the lows when people are still thinking it's time to be risk off. And so I've got a couple of little yellow box targets here because I think Bitcoin could drop into these, but I don't think it's going to get to the underside of them. It's pretty far down. I'm sure there are plenty of people that think Bitcoin's going to go lower than 14 grand. And some might think it will never get to 28 grand again, but I'm looking at this longer term for 2022, and I think we're going to fade out and just get pretty quiet this year. So that's sort of the area that I'm looking for between the 20 and 28k. So similar to your target, and that's where I'd start to layer my risk into Bitcoin again within my my super fund, so my retirement funds. So that's pretty much what I would do here going into 2022, because my macro outlook is that the markets still have further to go later this decade. I think later on, after we get this bigger peak, I'm sure some people think the peak's already done. I definitely don't think so. After that peak, then I would really start to look to get out and move into cash until we see a major collapse. But that's years away, 3 to 5, 6 years away.
Yeah. That's what I've been thinking. That's the kind of targets I have as well. And yeah, like you said about building cash again, that's what I said. Always should have some cash on the sidelines in case we see and everything crash. We saw pretty much everything sell off today. Stocks were down. I think the S&P was down about 2.5%. The Nasdaq was down about 3.5%. Gold and silver sold off as well. Bitcoin had a little bit of a sell off, down around 2%. So yeah, that's the reason why it is good, even though they say cash is trash. It is good in the short term to have some cash on the side to buy these opportunities. And yeah, like you said, with going from risk on to risk off, again, like they said, there'll still be lots of fear at the times when Bitcoin hits 20,000. And like most people say, even though people think I'm just all doom and gloom and fear, I'm just looking at the facts. There'll probably be a lot of fear at that time. And probably my viewers will be thinking, what are you doing buying Bitcoin at 20K? It's going to go to 10K. And it may possibly, but again, you got to factor in, okay, it's already a 60% drop. Why risk trying to wait for it to drop another 10% when you could possibly miss another 50% upside? So again, it's just risk reward for me there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's what I'm looking at on the way up as well. And that's why selling out, you're never going to time the top. And I always just say it's just a matter of getting a chunk out of the middle. Like all our job as investing is just to take as big a chunk out of the middle as we can. We don't need to buy the bottom or sell the top. But for 2022, I think you'll win it with gold. We can come back to this in a year's time and just see. But yeah, maybe for 2022, but I think beyond that, Bitcoin will easily destroy gold, hands down. If you're looking for an investment, Bitcoin will destroy gold.
Okay. Well, I guess then we could wrap it up and break it down in simple terms of conclusion. What our viewers could be thinking about. Again, not financial advice, but just give them some tools. Hopefully, teach them to fish instead of always having to rely on YouTubers to make all their financial decisions for them, which you definitely shouldn't do that. I've seen a lot of people get wrecked by that. But I guess what you could say is, in short term, gold, silver could possibly fall off. We think Bitcoin is still going to fall more. We think gold is going to outperform over the short term. But like I think any highly new, highly risk, highly volatile new assets, of course, they will outperform older, more traditional assets, which, like you could say, for example, NFTs will outperform Bitcoin, or the metaverse will outperform Bitcoin, but it's a lot more risk. So for people that are older, maybe not wanting,
Exactly.
For older people, maybe they don't want to take that risk. But yeah, so I think there is, even though we've been debating gold and silver, I think there is a time and season for everything. And so there is a time for having gold in your portfolio and Bitcoin. And it doesn't mean we're recommending you to sell or try to time it, but it could just be times to accumulate gold and times to accumulate Bitcoin.
I think as long as you have your plan and you understand the risk of both sides and what type of investor you are, how much downside risk you want to take, and how much upside you're looking for, then you're going to do fine no matter what condition you're in.
Yeah, Fantastic. Well, that was a good chat today, Jason. I think we hopefully educated our viewers to some points on why gold and silver goes up and why Bitcoin goes up. Some thoughts. Maybe they could make up what they want to do. So for those wanting to know, how can they find you?
Check out the links in the top of your video description. I'm on YouTube and Twitter and Instagram, so you'll leave them up there. Talk about crypto and the financial markets on a daily basis, primarily looking at technical analysis because that's where I've come from. But yeah, all the links top of the description. Hopefully, we'll get you on my channel too to give us some of that fear in the stock markets. We need a bit of
Fear facts.
that. Perfect. Thanks, mate.
Yep. Thanks for joining us, Jason, and thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you in the next video.